all of us work together to be able to show our citizens that we can be trusted, that we will do the best for them.
Tonight, a victory for Métis rights in Saskatchewan.
The only thing that they require is a willingness to participate and a desire to deal with their addictions and their trauma.
A new recovery center for youth battling addictions incorporates Indigenous and Western knowledge.
For me, I think that my culture is always at the forefront of my drag.
And the latest winner of Canada's drag race celebrates Black History Month. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. It's being hailed as a victory for Métis rights in Saskatchewan, as a Supreme Court of Canada decision will allow the Métis Nation Saskatchewan to continue challenging the province legally. The legal battle is over the failure to consult the Métis over the issuing of uranium permits in that province. Video journalist Rachel May has more on how this decision will impact their ongoing court case.
A quote from the court that really struck me was, court procedures should facilitate, not impede, the just resolution of Aboriginal claims.
Métis Nation Saskatchewan Vice President Michelle Leclerc says this is an important day for all Indigenous people in Saskatchewan going forward. In a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court of Canada dismissed Saskatchewan's appeal that they failed to consult the MNS on 3 uranium exploration permits, where it had asserted Aboriginal title and rights. Friday morning, the court said the MNS was within their right to sue the province over this issue. The decision allows MNS to proceed with legal action begun in 2020 against the province over those permits. Hilary Peterson, head legal officer with MNS, says that with the appeal dismissed, there was hope to get a decision on the 2020 lawsuit.
We have waited several months for this decision, and we we'll wait for the court to provide their decision, but our hope is that it is coming in short order.
For Métis Nation Saskatchewan President Glenn McCallum, this win is a stepping stone towards reconciliation.
It's not about an individual like me or the vice president or our legal. It's about our government. All of us work together to be able to show our citizens that we can be trusted, that we will do the best for them.
McCallum says he is hopeful these issues can be resolved through partnerships to avoid litigation in the future.
So for me, I believe very strongly that the commitment is there from this government and our First Nations brothers and sisters to be able to get to that point of where we should be a long time ago.
Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Voters went to the polls in Ontario Thursday, and Doug Ford cruised to another majority win. His party won 80 seats of the 124 up for grabs. The NDP got 27 seats and will again be the official opposition. And the Liberals nabbed 14 seats, although their leader, Bonnie Crombie, failed to win a seat. Saul Mamakwa was re-elected to a 3rd term in his northwestern Ontario riding with 61% of the vote. Former Anishinaabe Nation Grand Council Chief Reg Neganobi was defeated as a Liberal candidate in Algoma, Manitoulin. And former Grassy Narrows Chief Rudy Turtle was defeated as an NDP candidate in Kenora Rainy River. He lost to Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford, running for the Progressive Conservatives. To you, Manitoba now, where every year the last Friday in the month of February is recognized as Indigenous Justice Awareness Day. The day, formerly known as J.J. Harper Day, is a day meant to highlight systemic injustices faced by Indigenous peoples. Harper was an Island Lake region leader and was shot by a Winnipeg police officer in 1988 after being profiled as a suspect in a car theft. Not long after, the Aboriginal Justice Inquiry was called to look into his death and the 1971 murder of Helen Betty Osborne. It took 16 years until 4 men were charged in her death. Only 1 went to jail for her death. The AGI report was completed in 1991 by the late Justice Murray Sinclair, and his co-chair, Justice Alvin Hamilton. It had 291 recommendations. First Nation organizations in Manitoba have renewed calls for justice system reform, especially in light of the brutal killings of Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and the yet-to-be-identified Buffalo woman. In Nunavik, the police service has arrested and charged Nicholas Sear with sexually related offenses on January 21st. One of them is a sexual assault on a minor. 6 victims came forward, but the charges are based on one person who's come forward. Sear is currently out on bail. His next court date is March 4th. Sear was a physical education teacher at the secondary school in Kuujjuaq, northern Quebec. The Nunavik Police Service say Sear has lived in Kuujjuaq and worked at the secondary school for the last 14 years. Police is asking potential victims or witnesses to contact the local police or the Nunavik Police Service's Integrated Investigative Unit. Information can also be shared anonymously and confidentially. In the NWT, funding has been announced to combat addictions. Michael McLeod, Member of Parliament for Northwest Territories, announced that over $1.9 million in federal funding will be going to the No One Left Alone project, run by the Clecho Friendship Center, about 106 kilometers northwest of Yellowknife. The funding will help the center provide counseling, harm reduction, and culturally safe on-the-land programming to Indigenous substance users in the Clecho area. The funding comes from Health Canada's Substance Use and Addictions Program. McLeod, on behalf of the federal government, reaffirmed their commitment to substance abuse programs in smaller communities.
The Government of Canada will continue to support community organizations that provide a full range of services to improve the health of these communities, reduce harms from substance use, and save lives.
Meanwhile, a new substance abuse recovery center for youth in Frog Lake, Alberta, is preparing for the start of their first 90-day support program. APTN's Chris Stewart has more on how it combines traditional and Western knowledge to help young people recover and heal.
These former oil worker trailers are now the home of the Okisigo Esqueo Center, or Oki for short. It took Marcel Desley years to get to this point. He wanted a center to help youth from addictions, trauma, and suicide, and he used his own money and teamed up with Frog Lake leadership and the province of Alberta to get the Oki Center up and running. The Alberta government is putting up nearly $1 million in initial funding.
We bought the trailers, we got them renovated, and then this land here is actually my late grandmother's land. And so all of this has been put together over the course of the last few years, funding between Frog Lake, myself, and now the province has kicked in.
A couple of break-ins and flooding did not stop Marcel. Their 90-day treatment program covers youth between ages 14 to 24, Indigenous or not.
We're open to all youth from all different backgrounds, whether they're First Nations or Irish or Ukrainian or Jamaican. So we're open to all youth that are wanting to participate in a Cree-oriented program. The only thing that they require is a willingness to participate and a desire to deal with their addictions and their trauma.
Corianne Pruden is an addiction counselor and will be on hand to offer sessions created by social worker Joanna Johnson. Like an onion, she says each issue troubling a person has layers.
We take those layers away and we identify which layers they want to discuss. It could be emotional regulation or the trauma, and we'll give them different booklets and they answer them. And so just by their cues, their behaviors, their feelings, their emotions, and their thought processes, that's how we are able to determine what they're needing. And then we focus on that and we try to create a program that's going to work through those different types of issues.
And implementing Indigenous learning is vitally important.
And that's been something that's been missing from our healing, from our, I guess you could say, from our world, our Indigenous worlds for decades. Now it's being brought back in. So hopefully that things will change and our youth will call their spirits home.
The first group, with 10 women, begins soon, followed by 10 men in June, and will alternate. There is already a waiting list. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Frog Lake, Alberta.
Still out west, the Driftpile Cree Nation in Alberta signed a service delivery agreement on Thursday with the federal government. Indigenous Services Canada will provide $16.4 million per year for the next 4 years and additional funding for infrastructure to support the Family Services Program. This will enable the nation to provide their own child and family services instead of the province of Alberta. Chief Labicon told APTN that it was a historic day.
We have always wanted to provide services and supports to our children and families, no matter where they are. This is a huge milestone for our nation. We have been careful to get this right, and the transition will take about a 12-month period. We are excited to take on this work, and it is all about our children. They are the foundation of our nation and our future.
Still to come here tonight, we'll hear from an Indigenous comedian on the Just for Laughs tour. Stay with us. Welcome back. A comedy show featuring Indigenous comedians as part of the Just for Laughs tour had a stop in Vancouver, and APTN's Tina House had a chance to catch up with the creator of the show.
Thank you. We're here at Chillax Studios in downtown Vancouver, and joining me tonight is Debbie Kershane. Debbie, it's incredible to see this big crowd for us tonight. What's happening here?
It's great. We're presenting at Just for Laughs, Best of West. We have a lineup of First Nations, Indigenous, and Maori comedians here to present for their show. It's great.
Awesome. Can you tell us who's in the lineup?
Yeah, we have Alana Obi, Savannah Arismas, Tisha Akisan, Crystal Asham, Janae Henry, Kira Turkowenu, and Cheyenne Sapp.
Amazing. And a couple of these comedians are all the way from New Zealand?
Yeah, we have 2 Maori comedians out to showcase their talent.
Incredible. How big is this industry blowing up with Indigenous comedians stepping forward and getting up on stages like this?
It's so great. It's so great to see so many Indigenous people stepping up and doing comedy. It's such a exciting time for us to welcome into the world into Indigenous humor and the light side of our culture and who we are as a people. We are so resilient because of our humor and our jokes and our community. And so now, with these huge platforms such as Just for Laughs and seeing the rise of so many comedians across the nation, it's so good to see bring in everyone from across Canada to see what we're about.
Amazing. You're getting up there as well today to tell a few jokes. Do you have something you can say to us?
Yeah, sure. It's really kind of scary what's going on in the world, especially within the States. Women's rights are kind of in danger. But there's good things because, you hear women mobilizing. Something we heard in the future, you can't own women. You can only subscribe for $14.99.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Looking forward to tonight. It's going to be awesome. Back to you in the studio.
February is Black History Month, and for Turtle Island, it's a time to reflect on contributions from the Black community. But for artists like the Virgo Queen, it's a time to celebrate their mixed heritage as an Afro-Indigenous superstar. We caught up with the Season 5 winner of Canada's Drag Race to hear more. APTN's Veronica Blackhawk has the story.
I celebrate Black history every single day, all 12 months of the year. But for me, I feel like it's just an opportunity for us to really be bold, be proud, take up space and celebrate and uplift one another.
APTN spoke with the Virgo Queen to reflect on Black History Month and what it means to hold space for mixed heritage.
For me, I think that my culture is always at the forefront of my drag. It's definitely the visual that you see when you first look at me. And I'm very proud of my culture, my indigeneity, and my Blackness. So I try to express that in my art, whether it be visually or in my lyrics.
Steady short with frenemies on top and they couldn't get rid of me. Ancestor, my witness, this Afro-Indigenous, my Fijian daughter, yeah, this is our mission.
Virgo shares that her father is half Mi'kmaq and was born in Nova Scotia. Access to cultural education hasn't been easy, but has always been an important part of her journey.
From a child, like a really young age, I've always been like fascinated and trying to like learn as much as I could because it's never really been like taught in school. But being on Drag Race has definitely opened up a lot more opportunity, and like a lot of people have like reached out, and I feel like the community has definitely like opened up to me.
While she acknowledges that fostering a cultural community can be a challenge, her advice to young people looking to reconnect is patience and persistence.
Keep pushing forward and don't be afraid to ask and get out there and try to, you know, look for that support or that community.
This is me. Here I am standing in my power. Yes.
Absolutely, Miss Jaylene.
That dress is so important. I'm so proud of her. I feel like there's like so much like division like within our communities, so it's important for us to like stand together and like show, I don't know, support for one another. That's like what Black History Month means to me.
The first Black artist to win Canada's Drag Race, the Virgo Queen is gearing up to record more music, followed by a tour.
I'm trying to encourage these people, you know what I'm saying?
I'm Veronica Blackhawk with APTN News.
A new episode of APTN Investigates premieres tomorrow night. We'll hear from the reporter behind the show after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And Avery Harder sent us this adorable photo of Jessie as she plays catch in the family living room. Thanks, Avery. You can send your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at your Saturday weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 5 in Halifax, 3 with flurries in Fredericton. Minus 24 in Kuujjuaq, sun's out and 21 below in Nain. Plus 1 with snow in Montreal, minus 16 in flurries in Chibougamau. Minus 13 in Sault Ste. Marie, 15 below in North Bay. Sunny and minus 7 in Thunder Bay, 9 below and sunny skies in Sioux Lookout. Minus 11 in Thompson, God's Lake and Norway House. 8 below with the sun out in Winnipeg, minus 3 in Dauphin. 0 for Regina, Estevan, and Saskatoon. Minus 7 in Uranium City, 10 below in Stony Rapids. In northern Alberta, minus 1 in High Level, cloudy and plus 2 in Grand Prairie. 9 above in Edmonton, a sunny high of 18 in Lethbridge. 15 above in Vancouver, cloudy and 13 in Kamloops. 6 for Prince George and Smithers. Minus 15 and snow in Old Crow, 4 above in Whitehorse. Minus 10 in Yellowknife and Norman Wells. Minus 26 in Sax Harbor, 16 below in Paulituck. Minus 25 in Chesterfield, 26 below in Cambridge Bay. Minus 14 in Resolute, 24 below in Pangerton. Once a bustling port in Ontario, Depot Harbour was devastated by a massive munitions fire in 1945. Today, members of the Wasauksing First Nation say explosives remain scattered and the land contaminated with industrial toxins. Tomorrow night, on an all-new episode of APTN Investigates, journalist Kenneth Jackson digs into the history of Depot Harbour and delays surrounding Canada's long overdue cleanup. With more on the story, Kenneth joins us now from Ottawa. Kenneth, thanks for being with us. Where is Depot Harbour and how did you learn about it?
It's about 230 kilometers north of Toronto. It's on Perry Island next to Perry Sound. So in Cottage Country, just when it kind of begins north of Toronto. Depot Harbour is on the west side of Perry Island, which is essentially Wasauksing First Nation. But a long time ago, Depot Harbor became a turn of the 20th century, was a rail and port town that was founded by a man from Ottawa, J.R. Booth. He was an industrialist in rail and lumber. And he essentially swindled the Perry Island Band of Ojibways, which is now Wissahickon. He swindled them for their land, and he convinced Canada to take it, and he built a harbor there, port, poisoned, abused it, and he's one of our founding fathers. He's considered a great man. When you dig into his history a little bit, you see that there's a lot more issues there with how he went about things. People might say that that's the way it was back then, but the way I see it was he swindled the council there. He took land. He took more than he was supposed to. He poisoned and abused it, and then Canada ended up owning it because he left. He sold it, and they were there for about 100 years doing that before the council eventually drove them off the island. And they left behind contaminants, explosives, because there was nearby factories that made explosives, and it's a very dangerous area to this day that hasn't been cleaned up.
Why hasn't Canada cleaned up its mess?
It's Canada. There's a lot of these places across the country. There are, and we're a former wartime area. Any old rail yard is notoriously heavily contaminated. So everything that's there has to be hauled out. Every piece of dirt has to be hauled out by truck. It's a brownfield, is what they call them in Ontario. Canada, it's just so the last train left on September 17th, 1986. It's 2025. It's still contaminated, and that's the question for Canada. The council has done what they can. I think in the end, Canada doesn't want to pay, doesn't want to give the money, and they've been doing it in piecemeal. They're doing the easy parts first. Well, you have a contaminated land. You have houses around there that have groundwater have wells into the groundwater. I'm no expert, and we don't get too much into this documentary. First, we're just trying to lay the groundwork, but I hope to go forward, to try and connect a high cancer rate in the area to contamination that's in the ground to this day.
So, Ken, it sounds like there's more to come. What happens next?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing their reaction to it. This all started when I went after drug dealers last summer. And, the community, that was a hard story for the community to face, to talk about drugs, their trauma and addiction. I get that. This one, though, I feel like there's a lot more support, a lot more resounding. Everyone's behind this, it looks like. And I'm hopeful that after they see it, they'll want to dig in and try and find out why some people have died of cancer, why some people have lost 6 family members to cancer who live 500 meters away from Depot Harbor. And that's where I'm going to go next. I'm going to try and connect those dots.
Well, the promo for it is pretty intense, looks good and important as always. Thanks, Kenneth.
Thank you.
And you can catch APTN Investigates Dynamite Bay tomorrow night on APTN at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Friday. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. From all of us here at APTN News, Marcy Miigwech. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. Kim Sullivan is up next with your French language newscast. Have a great night.